Welcome to the Abracadamn podcast, and I'm your host, stand-up comedy magician Danny Whitson. All right, Abracadammits. It is a beautiful January day here. I believe it's the 26th, Tuesday. It feels amazing outside today. So if you are listening to the podcast today, get outside and enjoy this weather. Get some vitamin D. Get out and do something. I took advantage of it. I went for a run this morning, and it was so much better than running on that treadmill, getting stuck on the treadmill. I enjoy going outside and running so much better, and I feel great after getting outside and getting my run in, and it feels amazing outside, and it's sunny, it's pretty, the birds are chirping, so get outside and take advantage of it today. We don't know how many days we're going to get like this in January and February. You never know. All right. Now, if you're the kind of guy that cuts his own hair, that's not a good life choice, man. It's not. The kind of guy that cuts his own hair is the same guy that will try to represent himself in court. And we've all seen that guy try to represent himself in court, and we just know that guy's going to jail. So, same thing with cutting your own hair. Don't cut your own hair. You'll go to jail. Okay? So that brings us to today's sponsor, the Grove Barbershop, located at 98 Randolph Road, Oak Ridge, Tennessee. Owner and operator Jeff Hackler is one heck of a barber, folks. He's been cutting my hair for years, and you ain't never seen my hair look bad now, have you? No, you have not. Now, make an appointment with Jeff is super easy. All you have to do is go to grovebarbershop.com. You pick your time, pick your date, and then all you got to do is just show up. Yes, there's no wait, no line. It's just you and Jeff. Everything is clean. You get in there, he'll hook you up with a nice haircut, and then you're back on your feet. There you go. And you don't have to worry about going to jail. Be sure to check Grove Barbershop out at 98 Randolph Road, Oak Ridge, Tennessee. Give him a call at 865-482-2210, and definitely check them out at the website at thegrovebarbershop.com. I don't know about you guys, but I'm really looking forward to get some new tattoos, some new ink therapy, baby. I need some. And I couldn't think of any other better place to go than Rosie Tattoos. Yes, this episode is also brought to you by Rosie Tattoos, custom tattoos designed to suit your style in a friendly and clean environment. Now, let me just say, Rosie has been doing my tattoos for years. She's done all my tattoos. My sleeve was done by Rosie. People ask me all the time. They stop me and say, hey, I love your stuff. Where'd you get it done? Well, I got it done at Rosie Tattoos. Rosie offers free consultations online, by Facebook Messenger, Instagram, or by email. They will sit down, talk to you about what it is you want to do, and make sure they get it perfect. Rosie Tattoos is located at 5710 Kingston Pike, Knoxville, Tennessee. Give Rosie a call at 865-281-3451. Send her an email at rosietattoos@yahoo.com. And be sure to check out her website at rosietattoos.com. Make an appointment, get you some ink work done. You know you want to. And I tell you, once you do, working with Rosie, you definitely won't regret it. Rosie Tattoos. Okay. This episode was probably one of the more difficult interviews I've had to do, not because of the guest, not at all. It was the topic, and it's suicide prevention, which I feel like is a very important topic, especially right now where mental health is such under attack in a lot of ways right now. But this episode is great if you have any questions about suicide, if maybe you're a parent and you may be wondering about your child's mental health. It's a and also I think there's a fantastic story that my guest tells. It's almost like a happy ending somewhat story issue with a pep talk that she gives. This guest has lived every parent's worst nightmare, and instead of giving up, she has turned around and put great things back out in the universe. So if you guys would, please sit back, relax, and enjoy my conversation with Candy Cummins of Garrett's Tribe. It's Candy Cummins. How are you doing today?
Great. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. Thank you for coming on the podcast. Now, if you don't mind, do you care to tell the listeners, introduce yourself?
Of course, my name's Candy Cummins. I have an organization called Garrett's Tribe that I created after my son passed from suicide. It's my passion.
Now, how long have you had this?
And my son passed away in August of 2015, and I pretty much jumped right into getting certified, learning how to help others. That's my biggest thing. So pretty much since he's passed, there's been something going the whole time. And probably in the middle, the very first year he was gone, I gave away my first scholarships. Garrett's Tribe didn't officially exist at that time. It was coming together. Probably that summer is when I finally came up with a name.
Okay, now this is definitely a serious topic that I wanted to talk about, especially on the things that are going on, all the mental stress that this country's going through right now. But before we get into that, I do want to touch on a lighter note. Okay, a funny note is because when you introduce yourself, we know what you said, Candy Cummins. So the first time I remember actually meeting you is you were at a show and I brought you up and you told me your name was Candy, and I immediately, had to have fun. Well, that's a stripper's name. And you were fun. You had fun with it. We had a good time. But then later, I'll never forget you coming up to me and saying, well, you should have asked me my last name. And I was like, why? Because it's Cummins. And I was kicking myself. I thought, man, that would have been so funny. So I love the fact that you have a sense of humor, Candy Cummins. I love that. And, I guess, you do have to try to look for every opportunity to smile if you can. Now you said your son passed away. Did you say how many years ago?
It was in August of 2015. He was 13 years old.
Okay. Now as a parent, this is every parent's worst nightmare. Absolute yes. Worst nightmare. And you have lived it. I'll be honest with you, Candy. I don't know what I would do. I don't know. I don't know what I would do. But seeing that Garrett, he's not your only child, you have another child as well, correct?
Yeah, I have a 26-year-old.
You have a 26-year-old who needs mama, and mama's got to keep grinding. That's right. Well, I'll tell you what. You started this thing after Garrett passed, correct?
Yes.
And well, I tell you what. If you don't mind, you care to tell us your story?
Yes. So Garrett was. They tell you that one in four people in one will always give you the signs or symptoms, or they will speak out that they need help. There's always that one though, and Garrett was definitely that one. We had no signs or symptoms from him. I work in the medical field, had been working in the medical field, so I know what to look for, and he never gave them. He was really popular, really great in school. He played football and was in karate, had lots of friends. So not only, of course, that I was devastated and shocked, it really, because he was in touch with so many different people, nobody knew. Everybody was, of course, not just devastation of it, but the total shock, because he was that happy-go-lucky kid. He wanted to make everybody laugh. He was friends with everyone. That's the big thing that the kids tell me. If they didn't have a friend that day, Garrett was their friend. He didn't let somebody sit at the table by himself. He went to that person. He didn't want to see someone left out. Um, and I didn't learn any of this until after he was, of course, gone. Did people started to come forward. I will tell you the tale that I always go back to, the story that a young lady posted actually right after he passed. So they had a football game that Thursday, and he passed away on a Sunday. And this young lady posted about that they were there to watch a football game. It was a scrimmage, and they kept noticing this young man that was obviously, to them, they didn't know how old he was, but of course, Garrett at 13 was already 6 foot tall. Big boy. But they noticed this big kid working with the sixth graders. So you can imagine he looked like a giant among the midgets over there, kind of, so to speak, or smaller. I didn't mean for smaller people. I don't want to be politically incorrect. But of course, the parents kept saying, who is that kid? Because they could see him showing them, the younger ones, the correct position to be in, where to line up, that kind of thing. This was before the game. And they kept saying, we got to figure out who number 70 is. Well, of course, after the game, they asked their child, who's number 70? And he's like, that's Garrett. He's awesome. He is there for all of us sixth graders. He takes care of all of us. So after that first initial story, they just kept coming. And in the loss of him, I will go back to say that that's how I got propelled into doing what I do now. And his birthday was in January after he passed. But almost initially, or immediately, I should say, people start reaching out to me, telling me their story, seeking help. I had a provider contact me. They didn't give me any names because it's HIPAA. But immediately after he passed, within the first week, they had 7 kids come forward saying, if it can happen to him, it can. I'm already feeling this way. If it can happen to him, I need help so I don't end up down that road. And then I would have kids call or text and message. So I started reaching out. I wanted to make sure I knew how to handle it, where to send these kids to try to help them. And I didn't want to hurt. I didn't want to do any hurt. When he first, like I said, when he first passed away, that part I didn't know. Signs and symptoms I did. So for his birthday, I really reached out trying to get information of what I could do for his birthday, because they tell you not to celebrate or memorialize a suicide. Can't find nobody.
Okay, now I wanted to ask, earlier you mentioned 1 in 4 will show no signs at all?
Yes. So for every 5, 4 will show, 1 will not.
Okay. So, and Garrett didn't show any signs at all. He was...
No.
Now, do they know why this is? Why?
Just some people are better at hiding. And as adults, I'm sure that we all know there are people that put that face on. And they don't show what's going on in their lives. And they try to be the happy-go-lucky. Usually you don't see it as much in younger kids. But as I'm sure you've seen kind of on my Facebook too, that he kind of wasn't your average kid. He hung out with more adults. He liked to go sit and talk about politics. And not many 13-year-olds want to sit around and talk politics and history. And that was his favorite thing, was history. But after that, I couldn't find anybody to give me the proper information of how to move forward for his birthday. I did all the research myself. And then that's how I got involved with TSPN, which is Tennessee Suicide Prevention Network. I became a volunteer with them and started getting all my training. So as of right now, I'm certified in the youth mental health. I am certified in the applied suicide intervention skills with the suicide assist, which is a crisis intervention. I'm a QPR trainer, which is question, persuade, and refer if somebody's in need. But I'm a trainer. I can train other people to do that. I safe talk, which is making sure that you know how to talk to an individual that comes up to you that you can see is in crisis. I'm on the postvention team, and I went and I'm certified to take the test. I have clinical hours to finish. I took the first test and I'm past that point of, it's called family specialist, support specialist, where you can go in homes and help people. The biggest thing is knowing the statistics of today. 1 in 5 adults have some form of mental illness. 1 in 4 children are diagnosed with some form of mental illness. Worldwide, every 40 seconds, somebody takes their life. In East Tennessee alone, it's every 12 minutes we lose somebody to suicide.
Wow.
That's just in Tennessee. It's the 10th leading cause of death in Tennessee across the board, but it is the 2nd leading cause of death in teenagers in Tennessee.
Oh man, that's so sad to hear that. Now, for what you're doing is, I mean, that's so just amazing that the way you've directed and put your energy into something so positive after something so bad happened. Did this take you? I mean, how long did it take you before you started to be able to move in this direction?
Probably within just several months. Like I said, him and his personality and his legacy kind of propelled me to where kids and adults alike kind of felt like they could talk to me. And my biggest thing at that point in time was finding out how many of these people didn't know self-care. And that's what that's where the majority of my passion lies. People will contact me and I will take them self-care packages and give them the knowledge of self-care, things that they can do for themselves, although they need to be in some type of therapy. I find out that a lot of these people still don't have, therapists don't give them these packages. Even though they're going to a therapist, they don't really talk to them so much as teaching them. And some of them that are not in therapy for whatever reason, because mental health, especially in the rural area, carries a huge stigma. They don't talk about it. They don't want to talk about it. They still under the same old myth that if you talk about suicide, somebody's going to kill themselves. That is a myth. That is not true at all. If anybody understands or takes anything away from what I say today, talking about mental health and suicide does not mean that you're going to kill yourself.
I talk about it, and I used to think that I was like, I had better never, ever mention this, or people are going to think I'm crazy, or, they're going to think, ship me away or something. That's kind of how you are, taught around here,
Right.
And, it wasn't until maybe the past few years. I deal with OCD, real OCD, not the crap that people say, I'm so OCD. And I'm like, no, you're not. You don't know what the hell OCD actually really is. And now granted, I pretty much have it under control. I've been able to get a grip of it. But in my early 20s, I went through a spell where it was so bad that I was about to kill myself. It was that level of to where, I would have done it. Luckily though, my wife was there in my corner, helped me get through it. And I was a new father at the time. I don't even think my son was a year old. So, I mean, it kind of helped me realize, but how that anyone has a breaking point. Anyone can get there. And over the years, it's things that I've thought, I've been in that place, and I know how easy it is to slip into that and be deceived by your own thoughts. That everyone's better off without me. Those things. And I also think there's a stigma, especially in East Tennessee, in our culture, that suicide means this. Suicide means damnation. And I don't believe in any of that. I don't believe I don't believe that's true at all. It's mental illness just like anything else. And unfortunately, just not in our area, but the whole world has shit on mentally ill. That's been our human history that we have done. And it seems like finally we're starting to notice and take notice of these things, and especially with people like you are doing some of the things you're doing.
First, let me say thank you for staying, or I would have never got to meet you. And you're doing wonderful getting this information out there and supporting us. And I will say that when people look at suicide, especially like in Garrett's situation, the first question I always get, oh, he must have been bullied. Quite the opposite fact. Numerous people come forward after his death that he had actually stepped in and stopped other children from being bullied. Everybody knew Garrett didn't tolerate it. I've had parents call me after the fact because their kids were starting to get bullied again, and they didn't know what to do because Garrett wasn't there to help them. And unfortunately, the school system it was put to me at one point was, are they really being bullied? I'm not sure what they're really being bullied entails. And that kind of set me back. Garrett's situation was different. We were living in a really toxic situation, and he just said that he couldn't deal with it anymore. And that's a hard pill for me to swallow as a parent, that I didn't realize. And I think when you're in survival mode as a parent, sometimes you don't realize the effect that it does have on children. So that's another thing that I really talk about. You have to make sure when you're in a toxic situation that you get out. It's not fair to children. Looking back now, I see more of it than I did when I was in it, because I was in survival mode. And my kids were in survival mode. Of course, there's 9 years difference between my children. So my oldest was already gone from home. He had already moved off, had his own life, so to speak. And that's part of the whole self-care thing that I put out there, kind of even recognizing the signs and symptoms yourself of your depression, because that's what happens when you're in survival mode. You get depressed. It switches off certain things in your brain for you to carry on. And hopefully having this information put out there all the time, that you'll recognize it yourself. They will recognize it themselves and realize the steps they need to take. Some of the things that in the self-care packages that I give to people are, of course, I'm sure everybody has heard, coloring books. It is a great mind changer. I call it's called the 15-minute change. And that's it. We give it out for, we suggest these things for people that are battling depression, but also people that are self-harming. And self-harming doesn't mean that you're gonna that you're suicidal. There's two different things there. Self-harm is definitely something that they see of giving physical pain to the mental pain that they don't know how to process. But these are some of the things that I actually tell them or give them. Like I said, I give them coloring books. I give them journals. Suggestions are reading the Bible, taking a walk, talking to someone, exercising, cuddling with a partner, a pet, listening to upbeat music can change your attitude. Of course, I have a top one myself. Making crafts, playing games. Try not to spend too much time in front of the screen, um, because and violent video games. I'm not totally against them, but you need to make sure that you have, I guess, I don't even know what the word I'm looking for is, expectations that you know of, and making sure that you keep it within a minimum time. The other thing is sitting out in the sun, writing creative stories, drawing, painting. It's all about having your mind distracted, and making you happy.
I'm a 100% firm believer in everything you just said. Okay, first of all, let me back up real quick. The violent video games, I don't see a problem with. I think everything in moderation, first of all, and what kind of violence are you talking about? Like I think normal fantasy violence, if you're ever, like shooting the bad guys or whatever,
that's what I'm talking about.
But I mean, let's be honest. If you're a 10-year-old and you're playing Grand Theft Auto and you're selling drugs and robbing banks and your character is sleeping with prostitutes, that's not a video game you should be playing. Now, if you're an adult, you can make that choice. And if you're mentally capable of separating fantasy from reality, fine. Also, on the hobby stuff is, this is going to sound so probably cliche or whatever, but Magic saved my life in a lot of ways. And, well, to be good at anything, you have to be obsessed with it. And I was totally obsessed with Magic in my early 20s. That's my face was always in a Magic book. And it really helped me it gave me confidence that I could learn this, that I can overcome other things. So, and also vitamin D, exercise always makes me feel good. I like to go for a run. And every time I get done, I feel better, instead of grabbing a whole thing of Little Debbie's or, you know what I'm saying? Or going the other route, I always feel better afterwards when I exercise. So I think that's good too. I totally 100% agree. And these are self-care packages. I think this is awesome that you're doing this, Candy. Man, this is super, super cool. Now, I remember seeing you at Zombie Fest. You had a booth set up. And how did you get involved with Zombie Fest?
So I don't know if your listeners know who Zombie Dan is, but that's Daniel Blevins. He's one of my good friends here in Scott County. We were actually at a music festival, and he called me over. He said, "Hey, I want you to meet some people."
What music festival?
I think it was Ayers Wave, is what it was called. It was at Possum Trot here in Scott County.
Okay.
I don't think they've been doing it anymore. Yeah, Possum Trot. It's an old West town that they hold certain events at. And I only knew about Possum Trot because I had actually held what would have been Garrett's class, their 8th grade football end of year event. Well, usually they just go to the local park and everybody brings hot dogs and chili. And I thought, you know what? These kids have been through it. Let's do something special for them. So I had a barbecue dinner catered at Possum Trot, and the boys absolutely loved it. We took them on hay rides, had little bonfires. They got to eat in the saloon. So that's the only reason why I knew of that place anyway. But I went to the event, and Daniel's like, "Hey, come over here." And as I'm sitting there, he's telling me about Zombie Fest, that they're wanting to actually support a charity. Now, I will say the first year that they had it, it wasn't Zombie Fest per se. It was a Music on Main, and I actually went and participated in that event and didn't meet them then. Of course, I dressed up like a zombie, and we all did a big zombie parade. But at this music event, he's telling me who they are and that they're wanting to do that, and they are wanting to get involved with Garrett's tribe. Because, like I said, the event of losing Garrett was pretty spread across the county. I mean, it's not often that you hear of someone that young passing. But Garrett knew more people than I ever did. I mean, his funeral had 700 plus people show up, and each person either knew him personally. Most of them knew him personally. He went to both county city school, went to Boys and Girls Club, went to different churches. He went to all kinds of different church events, and he met all these people. So when he passed, it was very spread across the county. So that's how I got involved in Zombie Fest. And Mo and Ella, he'll shoot me for that one. Sorry, Mo. But they have been awesome. They invited me to Zombie Fest. Of course, they didn't charge me a fee to come. And basically at the fest, I sold t-shirts, but I also had all the information. I had self-care packages there. I made sure I had brochures there, and just talked to people. And I was really shocked at how many people told their story and took information with them that they could use later. And that to me was more, I didn't make a whole lot of money. I think I sold 3 shirts, which is fine. Just being there and having the ability to pass the information out was a blessing, and continues to be a blessing.
Well, that's awesome. And I'm glad that, you were able to, I'm glad you were there, because that's kind of, when I first, met you and saw what you were doing. Now, I'll tell you what, let's do this. Since this is Zombie Fest, we talked about Zombie Fest at least, okay? I'm going to show you, I got the magic green gloves on, and we're going to do a magic trick, okay? Now,
right.
This is stupid. This is going to be dumb, but I'm going to try to nail this, okay? I've got my hand behind my back, all right?
Okay.
We're going to do some mind reading, okay? You ready, Candy?
Uh-huh.
Concentrate. Okay. Hands behind my back. How many fingers am I holding up behind my back?
5.
5. You know what, Candy? Absolutely, you nailed it. 5 fingers right here behind. I don't know how you did it. You are good, girl. You are good.
I love it.
Now, you know what? You did mention this, and as a parent, oh my God, dude, it's so hard. I was thinking the other day, like, I'm kind of like in your situation. My kids are 9 years apart, and I've got a 11-year-old daughter right now who is an introvert. So it drives me crazy because I'm always poking her with a stick. You okay, kid? You okay? Everything okay? All right, And I always continuously, try to monitor, what's going on with her life and ask her the annoying questions, because as a parent, you do get this thing to where you're so wrapped up in your BS,
Yeah.
And I've got a lot of BS, Candy. I got a lot, I'm so wrapped up into it, and I'm thinking, wait a minute, stop. Am I neglecting my child? I've always worried because she's such an introvert, so I don't know what's going on in there, So I totally understand, and I'm sure any listeners of kids totally understand, relate how stressing and how easy it is to get wrapped up into your own maniac life, and feel like you're not paying attention to your kid enough. I think sometimes we probably beat ourselves up a little bit too much over that, though, too. Now, speaking now, how did you handle this? Because I've heard, I can only imagine. Like I said, I don't even know what I would do, Candy, if I was in your situation. But you've got another child that you have to be here for, that you have to be a mother for. How have you handled that?
I think making sure that he's okay. It is a little different because he is the older child. For the first year, he was working on the road. He wasn't even here. And I think, unfortunately, that made it harder for him because he didn't deal with it. He ran off and just didn't want to deal with it. I just try to make sure that I'm always asking those questions. And to go back to Garrett, I will say that I did ask those questions on a continuous basis of, how are you doing? Are you okay? How is school? You having any issues? And of course, he didn't call me mom. Little tidbit of information. He never called me mom when he was first born. When he first started talking, he called me mama, which as a Southern person that you don't hear very often, was absolutely in love with it. And then all of a sudden I became Maya. We don't know where it came from, but that's all that he ever called me was Maya. But that was his thing. Maya, I'm okay. Why are you asking me? I'm good. I'm good. I'm good, Maya. I'm good. And he would say, would you please just quit asking me? And I'm like, but I've already been through a teenager. I've already been through all those ups and downs as a teenager with one, which is my oldest, Cody. So that's why I was always asking those questions to Garrett. But I think he held on to the information just because of the toxicity that was going on. I think he didn't want to put more on me worrying about him. So the oldest one, it's been a work in progress. We have our ups and we have our downs. He has a daughter of his own now. So she's been a huge, huge blessing to us. It gives you a different focus in life for sure. And she is rotten as the day is long. So, yeah, it's just making sure, and not just with Cody. He is my blood child, of course, fully mine. I give birth to him. But I have 40 other, per se, kids. The football team, that's kind of, if you ask the football team who I am, and they will say I'm their mom. It's been a humorous couple of times that people will ask why I'm there at a football game, that didn't know in the beginning, and to have the ones they would say, oh, well, that's our mom. I mean, I literally had a gentleman on the football field one night. One of the players like, oh, she's our mom. And he looked at me and he said, all of them? And he was like, yeah, all 40 of us were her kid. And he was an older gentleman, bless his heart. His mom was like,
wow.
Yeah. So I've been still very involved with them. We meet on a regular basis and we have our fun. And yesterday was actually Garrett's, would have been,
It's okay.
would have been his 19th birthday. And of course, last year I said I wouldn't do anything else for his birthday. And I never would have done anything for his birthday except for the kids won't allow me not to do anything. And it's crazy now but we had a group. We had dinner last night, celebrated his birthday, and it's not a sad event. They laugh and they talk and they tell about the crazy things that they all did together. So it's not what people think. We're not sitting around crying around, But the boys, they want to continue. And I said, as long as you want to continue. But last year I said, no more. We're not doing it no more. I'm like, you guys are getting old enough. And, of course, they were like, no, we're doing it until he's at least 21. And I was like, children, listen, it's a bunch of teenage boys. You just want to wait till 21 so you can go out there and pour beer on his grave, I'm sure. I'm like, but okay, as long as they want to do it, but being there for those kids also has been a big blessing to me. Not only is them including me or keeping in touch with me, but I kind of got to be a honorary football family. Something a lot of females don't get to see, that I was included in on, and lots of things I really didn't want to know. I'm just going to say, as a woman, I'm a female, I really didn't want to know, but the kids have been great. So not only my son, making sure that his mental health has been looked after, but also these boys. And there's, I had the middle school football coach one time. He was like, I have notoriously run late for everything. And he was like, can you kind of get here a little early? Because the boys would look for me. I have not missed a football game since my son passed. Not one.
Wow.
So at one point I was going to 4 games a week for middle school and high school, regular games and JV games, because I will say that the first game that they played after he died, they didn't want to play. They called me. I was in Knoxville, actually there to buy clothes for his burial, or his funeral. And they called me and said, hey, the boys don't want to play. They were there at the game. They thought they were dishonoring him by not playing. They just didn't want to do it. Can you come talk to the kids? Immediately I said, okay, let's go. But I can't stay. I don't think I can stay, but I'll go talk to the children. And I went and talked to him and I said, listen, at the time I didn't want to give them all the information. But I did tell him, I was like, that's one of the things he said. He wanted you guys to continue to play, continue to live, continue to be there for one another. I said, so please play. That's one of the things he asked for. In reality, what his letter said was he wanted them, not in an egotistical way, but this was his way of saying, please continue to play. Was he said, win the championship for me. So we didn't tell him that part until after they won the championship.
Oh my goodness, they won the championship.
Yeah. But I didn't want to give the information completely, because I didn't want them to, if they lost, I didn't want them to feel
like they let him down. And then,
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So immediately after we give them the news of that's what he actually said. And of course that just made their win even more special to them. And I guess that kind of makes them continue. Even if they stop playing football, I've remained in touch with them. I'm just proud of them for staying, because once you have a suicide amongst friends, it doubles your chance of suicide yourself.
I did not know that. That was like, you remember, I think it may have been 2019 or maybe 18, Chris Cornell suicide. And then shortly after that, the lead singer of Linkin Park, they were
yeah.
I did not know that. Wow.
Yeah. That's one of the reasons why they tell you not to memorialize a suicide. And the main thing is that not for people like that, but they call it suicide contagion too. People will see someone die from suicide and see their uplifted in the public eye, especially for kids that are maybe loners and by themselves, and of course, Garrett's situation was a little different. He wasn't a loner. He did have lots of friends. And just like those famous singers, being exposed to it, it just increases their chance, increases their grief, kind of makes them go into a headspace that's not good. As parents, I did want to make sure that talking about all this stuff is kind of some of the things to look for in kids. To make sure, like them talking about suicide or wanting to die, them giving up all their possessions or favorite possessions, them talk about me feeling trapped or overwhelmed, talking about being a burden to others, acting different out of what is their usual character, sleeping more or not sleeping, depending on what they were doing before, eating, not eating, depending on what they were doing before. It kind of, you got to really watch your child displaying crazy moods, mood swings. Those are all kind of warning signs. And withdraw from family and friends, drug and alcohol use. You see a lot of people that have mental health issues also use drugs and alcohol. So it's a major sign. Them saying they're bored all the time, that they can't find something to do. Which was really a shocker for me, because you hear kids all the time, oh, I'm bored. Well, go clean. Well, I'm not that bored. I mean, that's typical teenagers. So that was kind of a shock for me. Also, kids that are often complaining about sickness, headaches, belly aches, because it kind of becomes it affects you physically. The stress of the mental health issues can affect you physically, and they don't know how to always talk about it. And also if they don't want to go to school, their grades dropping, there's just so many different signs and symptoms. But at the same time, you have to make sure you keep an eye on it. Like you said, you have an introvert. Those are probably the hardest ones because they don't talk. So you're kind of always poking and prodding. I get it. And hopefully, my biggest worry and fear is anybody else going through this. I know he didn't do this to hurt me or to hurt his mom or his dad or to hurt his brother or hurt anybody else. And that's the hard part to keep in mind, that people don't realize that they're not on it. People that are suicidal are in their own space. They are just thinking that they are the burden. And that's hard to remember. And don't yell at your kids for self-harming or trying to tell them how bad they are. Take them to the doctor. Take them to the doctor. I see that a lot here culturally. You know better than that. You shouldn't think that way. You need to get your mind. That's not how this works. They need help processing that information. I mean, it is not a bad thing to ask for help. They're not alone. That's my biggest thing. You're not alone. We have the suicide hotline. We have the teen text line, which the 1-800-SUICIDE is the hotline. They're fixing to change that in the next year or so. But you can also text them. You don't have to talk to them on the phone. You can text them here in Tennessee. If you text them at 741-741, and you text home to that number, they will text back and forth with you. Not just about suicide, not just about suicide ideation. If you're having a bad day, feeling overwhelmed, or for people like you said, you have OCD, for people that are stuck in the cycle and can't get out of that cycle, text with these people. They will talk to people suffering from grief, whether it's from suicidal grief loss or if it's just from natural cause loss. And they will talk to you about anything. And I think it's a very underused tool at our disposal that's free. And right now, most people.
Once again, Candy.
It's the same line, but it's called the 1-800-SUICIDE line. You can call 1-800-SUICIDE, or you can call 1-800-273-TALK, or you can text 741-741, and you text the word home, and they will text back and forth with you.
Okay, now
like I said,
let me ask you this: you have some merchandise and stuff that you sell that goes to suicide prevention, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and what is some of the merchandise you sell, and where can the listeners buy this if they wanted to buy something?
I sell T-shirts and sweatshirts, and you can buy it at the Black Cat, which is owned by Mo and Ella.
And that is in Oneida, Tennessee, correct?
Correct. Yeah, and they are on Facebook.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, my Facebook, if you contact me on my Facebook, which of course is Candy Cummins.
He's my cherry pie.
And all the funds that come from what I sell, I also give away bracelets that have the 1-800-SUICIDE hotline. It has Garrett's Tribe on it, but it has 1-800-SUICIDE hotline and the text number inside of it for people. I give those away and usually send them with T-shirt shells. Cannot get that out. Let's see. Anyway, but all the funds that get from all that go to scholarships, continuing education scholarships for seniors. I give away at least one scholarship, but this year we have 6 scholarships ready. The Zombie Fest raised a lot of money this year for scholarships. It's called Ape Made It, which is a friend from Northern Kentucky where I'm from. And then, of course, my personal donations that I put into it every year. But those are based just on just the student. It's not based on grades. It's not based on what school they're going to. They can either be going to a college, a community college. They can be going to a trade school. So that's kind of I'm a little bit different on my scholarship process. It's really based on who they are and how they are.
That's the way it should be.
Yeah, and need, of course, and need. So it goes towards the scholarships, but it also goes towards what I call mini scholarships. Kids that need shoes, sports equipment. I've paid electric bills. I've bought groceries. When people get in those desperate modes, we do have resources out here, but not everybody knows how to use those resources. And sometimes they get into a spot that even the resources can't help them enough. So that's kind of what the money goes to. And I will say I don't make a whole lot of money on merchandise sales. It mostly comes out of my own pocket, but that's fine too. And I also, the care packages, money goes towards the care packages. And then along with the stuff that I put in the care packages, mostly it is a list of what they can do. And the coloring books, and I buy the journals, but I also buy hygiene products. I see that as a big issue around here. Just having shampoo and conditioner and just soap will raise spirits. And it is really bad around here. You see it, we are in a very poverty-stricken area in East Tennessee and Kentucky, since we're so close to the Kentucky border. And I also give them this, I guess it's a card. You can kind of see.
Garrett's okay.
But
yeah.
It is packed full of information of coping with urges, Bible verses for them to look over, all the common factors and the additional factors for teenagers, and how these kids and adults, mostly kids, most of my focus is on youth, how they can save a friend, and having those kids learn. After Garrett passed away, I found out that he did tell one person. They had no clue what to do with that information because we don't teach that in schools. We don't teach them that they need to come forward. Now, my group of kids that are at our school know more about it because I've been so vocal about it. But, not teaching our kids is not the right thing either. That's the other thing I'm pushing for. There is a program in Tennessee called Mental Health 101. And all these schools around here have objected to letting it come into the school system. It's required curriculum. It's required curriculum that they teach in the classroom, but they teach it their way. I learned about this as I started going to these, the Tennessee Suicide Prevention Network meetings. But it's a free program. It's paid for by the state of Tennessee. It's approved by the Tennessee Education. But these schools don't like people to come in and talk about this. It's still a huge stigma. They really struggle with it. I know when the first time I found out about it at a meeting, they had been trying for 10 years to talk to someone in our local school system, and no one would ever return their call.
That makes no sense at all to me. I don't understand that.
It doesn't. It's called Mental Health 101, and it teaches kids. It teaches them how to cope. It gives them the tools of how to cope, because they're fixing, and they start from middle school to high school. It's 1 hour a year. The school system doesn't, that's, you look at how much time and money that they pay their teachers. I'm sure all those teachers would love to have that free 1 hour to do whatever they need to take care of. It makes no sense that they are not allowed into schools.
That is crazy. I wonder, how do we get that changed?
I keep pushing the information forward. I've asked the school system about it. It's a huge struggle. The young lady who was in charge of it when I met her a couple of years ago, that was the first time I got her a phone call, and they talked to her and said, we cover it in our curriculum. But when you talk to these kids, they're like, no, because they include it in their overall health program. So they only have to have so much information in there.
Apparently it's not working, if they include it in their curriculum. So it needs to be, revised and taken a look at.
It is crazy the difference that they don't want to do that. I don't understand the school systems. Just like we had a suicide a couple years ago at Campbell County High School, they refused to let the postvention team to come in, and that why are you denying our children the help that these free things definitely can provide? And it's because it's that same old mentality that our stuff is our stuff. We keep it locked up. And it's horrible. It breaks my heart. It literally breaks my heart.
Well, I want to say, thank God we have people like you that are, and I mean, whether if you believe this or not, but I think, there's two routes someone can go when something bad happens to them. And you've definitely turn around and not let something defeat you. And the energy that you're putting back out in the universe is much needed. And I want to say thank you for that. We definitely need more people like you, Candy.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Now we've been serious, but now this is the Abracadamn podcast. So we're going to do a card trick. All right. Ready? Okay. And the only way you can do card tricks on a podcast is mind reading tricks. So here. I'm going to hold some cards up. Can you see these cards?
Yep.
Okay. Think of just one of those cards. Don't say it. Just think of it. Do you have it?
Okay.
All
yep.
Right. Here we go. Now don't forget it. Okay. I got to stand up for this. Hold on. And I'm going to shuffle the cards. I'm going to mix them up. We're going to try this. Now, what I'm going to do, Candy, I'm going to go through the cards. Don't tell me if you see your card, but tell me if you saw it after the fact, okay?
I've seen it.
You saw it already?
Yeah.
Wow, no one's that fast. Okay, all right. Wow, I'm impressed. Hold on. Let me try. What I'm going to do, I'm going to deal some cards down here on the table.
Okay.
I want to see if I can feel. I tell you what, I'm going to stop right here.
Okay.
Right here, I'm stopped at one card. In a loud voice, what was the card you're just thinking of?
2 of diamonds.
The 2 of diamonds. One card right here, I stopped at. On the top of the deck, one card.
Okay.
The 2
I never how do you do it.
Yes.
Good job.
I sold my soul. And they're like, really? And I'm like, yeah. The devil tried to give me $1 million, but I was like, no, I want to do card tricks. And while you're at it, throw in some red hair. Okay. Candy, I want to say thank you so much for coming on the podcast and talking about what you do in Garrett's Tribe. This is, like I said, this is not an easy conversation to talk about, but you could continue to do it. And, and hopefully, you can reach out and, touch lives.
Thank you so much for having me. The more word we get out there, if we just save one life, every effort is well worth it.
Absolutely. Candy Cummins, and they can find you on Facebook, correct? And make sure they find the right Candy Cummins. So I'm sure there's a few. So not only fans Candy Cummins, this is Facebook Candy Cummins. All right, Candy, once again, hey, thanks a lot. And I can't wait to bump into you again, maybe at Zombie Fest this year.
Thank you so much. Have a great night.
Okay, that does it for this very special episode of the Abracadamn podcast with Candy Cummins. If you would like to support her cause, which I 100% suggest that you do, you can find her on Facebook, and any of the merch, anything that you buy, T-shirts, goes towards suicide prevention for Garrett's tribe. Like I said, this was a special episode, and I just hope that any parent out there that may be wondering about the mental health of her child or his child, I hope this was helpful. Also, if you're thinking about suicide, definitely remember there's places you can call. There's people you can talk to. You are wanted. You are loved. I want you to stick around. I want to show you magic tricks. Don't go anywhere. Don't go. Please don't leave us. I hope you guys got something out of this episode. I know I did. I do want to give a show announcement. This Friday, we've got our stand-up magic comedy virtual show. It's right now you can get your tickets for just $10 on brownpapertickets.com. You buy the tickets for just $10. We send you the link, and then at showtime at 8 p.m. this Friday night, you can sit back in your home and watch an entertaining show. So definitely check that out. And like always, thank you for listening.
Abracadabra.